Hi, this is Sarah Nance, and this is my video for the fifth question in the Module 3 assignment for this week. And it's about how to creatively redesign education or the way our schools are set up today. So I love this assignment because I've actually been thinking about this for a long time about how our schools do exactly what the videos and the other materials provided say that we shouldn't be doing. So, for example, in my school district, there are 6 schools and 1 alternative school within a 10-mile radius of one another. We serve close to 15,000 high school students. So this design is really for the last 4 years or so of a student's high school career. So I teach at Eagle Crest. Endeavor is our alternative school. So here it is, looking all bland and gray and very uniform. So my current idea, given that we have a lot of space to provide for our students in our giant schools, would be to do something like this. So, for example, all students would start at an exploration center in their career, in their high school career, and that would be at least a year, if not, but I mean, we could make it shorter or longer depending on the students' needs. But then they would choose a school represented by those gray boxes now in different color boxes. So they might choose to go to the vocational school and do their training for the future at that school for the next however long it takes. Or they might go onto the science side, the environmental, biology, or nature side. They might stick to arts, humanities, and literature, and obviously there's a wide range in there. We could have a school for law, politics, and government. We could have a school for pre-med or any other health careers, mental health, physical health, animal health, and education. And then we could have a school dedicated to STEM careers. So really, how this would look in my mind is that after middle school, which would be a traditional middle school structure, students would begin in the exploration school, and they would spend a year, but not limited to that year, completing the following tasks. They would go to each of the discipline schools. They would be like interning with other students, having mentors, and they would be the mentees to decide which fit is the right one for them. They would conduct interviews. They would apply to be accepted into that school, and they would do some basic core work beyond 8th grade. So they had gone to middle school for all the first 8 years, 8 or 9 years. And then in that exploration school year, we get a foundation for core work. So Algebra 1, Algebra 2, if that's where students are. Any kind of testing that they would need to get done, surveys for career inventories, and then of course a lot of this would rely on school support and parent support too, which is also mentioned in some of the videos. So while their students are in school, they would do a lot of project-based learning, inquiry-based creativity, allowing students to pursue things that they want to pursue. Obviously, technology would be integrated. Applications like Swivel, YouTube 360, and Second Life could be used to help students reach their goals. Could be perhaps classes to help students pass those standardized tests, SAT, ACT, so that they don't fall behind the curve in that sense, and as they're trying to get accepted to college. Obviously, the e-learning blended classrooms is important to think about. Time would be fluid. So looking back at Jacob's chapter, not necessarily 4 years or however X minutes amount in a day, but as the student needs to create and finish his or her own projects on their timelines. It's for students who want to complete it in 2 years and apply to college, who don't need that summer break, or who have jobs and internships, and so they need to do school at a different time and in a different way. So time would be more fluid. And then the schools would determine standards of proficiency, graduation requirements, projects, portfolios, so that students would show their learning in that way, and then they graduate. They would have graduations, every semester, much like in college, so that students can graduate when they're ready and when they have shown that proficiency. And the whole structure relies on collaboration and community. Now, this structure of our schools does have some hiccups to foresee, and so I tried to kind of outline what some of those hiccups might be. So one of the biggest ones would be if a student enrolls in the arts and humanities school, but then 2 years in they decide they don't want to do that anymore. What do we do about that? So the question, of course, for that would be funding for that student. Could we let them go for longer than 4 years to really pursue something that they're interested in? I think yes, although I know money does factor into that. I would have to think about students who need accommodations. Now that factors into the classes they're in the core, on the core side, but also what is realistic for them, and how we would accommodate some of the projects, portfolios, so that they're engaging in rigorous activities, but they're still meeting the standards determined by the school. Scheduling, obviously, that's something that parents, the community might worry about. As far as busing, that could be a concern as well, especially because we have 15,000 high school students and many of them don't walk to school. And what if the school that they decide to go to is on the other side of town? AP tests and thinking about the whole child. So just because they're in the arts, humanities, literature school, we're ignoring the math side. There might be a concern about that they're not exploring the other side of their brain. But my solution to that would be that in that exploration year that they kind of get through some of that core work, so that then they've tapped into that side of their brain, but we're going to focus on what they want to pursue in the future. Again, the opportunity achievement gap, I think there could be some schools or career paths that might be suited for different students from different socioeconomics and different races. Now, obviously, you want to change that, but I think there's some cultural stigma attached to some of that stuff that we would have to overcome. And so we would have to also then determine what should be accomplished by the end of the 8th grade year that would be an adequate base for all students before pursuing their career school. And then, we got to think about sports and clubs. Students, they need to participate in sports and clubs. And if every high school had a sport or club, could that be a motivating factor for choice? Like that one of the schools becomes a really good basketball school, so they go there for the basketball and not for the fact that it's the STEM school. That's a problem. We wouldn't want that. But how do we leverage the need for students to have competition in sports and clubs and things that are, I want to say traditional in schools, or maybe we just do it with sports and clubs altogether. But I personally find value in that, so I would want to be concerned about that. And then how would colleges look at this model? Would they accept a student from this model, knowing that they might be accepting a student who's only 16 years old? You have to change some culture, some habits on the college side as well. So I looked at some of the videos that we had for this module, and some quotes or some evidence I have to support some of this stuff are as follows. So in the What If Students Control Their Own Learning, Peter Hutton said, to be a supportive community, empowering students to manage their individualized learning and turn ideas into reality. That's what his school does, so empowering students to take control of their own learning. The students get to select all their subjects, 100% of the course load, and they get to decide. So support and parent advice is always offered, and that would be the same in my model too, but the kids direct the way they want to go. And in his model, truly amazing things happen, so that kind of stood out to me. In Kayla Delzert's video, she talked about being less teacher-centered and more student-centered, letting students decide how they go to school, and I think my model allows for that too, because it's so high interest. Teachers don't need to master it all. I thought that was an interesting takeaway from her quote, or from her video, to quote, and that students really it's okay to let them learn and lead and teach others, including teachers. And if we do this model that I suggest, then it gives kids ownership in their learning, and that's what Kayla Delzert values as well. In the Future of Education video, not the Sajan George one, but the other one, the author, I think his name is John Spencer, recognized the need to give students voice and choice, and that our job as teachers is to help children realize their dreams. So if we can get kids into schools that really empower them and let them explore their interests and dreams, then why not? And then from Sajan George's Future of Education, one quote that I got from him was that in his school, just like the one in Peter Hutton, that every student has their own individualized learning path, and I really find value in that, and we have to think about a way to take our physical space and make that happen in multiple school districts. And I think that because mine is so big, we have these massive buildings, that we could actually affect a little change in this. And then from Heidi Jacobs, our new visions of school need to reflect the times in which we live and continue to be open and new to dynamic structures. So making kids sit in desks for X amount of minutes a day, for X amount of months, for X amount of years isn't really congruous with the 21st century. And so we need to rethink the way schools are designed, the time, and then their outcomes, and for the curriculum, etc. So here are the references I use. Hopefully this doesn't seem so far-fetched to anyone and seems like a good idea. I've actually been thinking about this in my school district for some time, so I was excited to talk about it a little bit more. Thanks so much.